A recent article in The Economist titled "Why is Xi Jinping Building Secret Commodity Stockpiles" points out that over the past 20 years, mainland China has imported massive quantities of food and industrial raw materials with a substantive increase of 16% throughout 2023 and a further 6% in the first 5 months for 2024. Given the sharp decline in consumer demand in the mainland market, is China's rapid stockpiling of raw materials a deliberate preparation for potential conflict? And according to a consulting firm, Rapidon Energy, it estimates that since the beginning of 2024, China has been adding 900,000 barrels of crude oil to its stockpiles daily. And in June, the stockpiling rate surged to 1.5 million barrels per day, indicating a significant acceleration. So given all these facts, including the crude oil and also the stockpiling, does it seem like the dangerous intention, and can we interpret that as a warning sign that actually China is preparing for a hot war with Taiwan? Professor Huang.
I think it's too far to call that mainland China, because of this, is preparing for a war against Taiwan. Because first, the population of mainland China reaches over 1.4 billion. That's the second largest population in the world. So, like food security, and there would be the need for enough food to feed the Chinese people. Therefore, I do not think any Chinese Communist administrations would tolerate the insufficiency of food for its own people. Then I think, without food, we always say that Chinese people, pay a lot of attention to food. We just like to talk about food.
Yes.
Like the first greeting we might say in the days, have you eaten?
Yes,
right?
In Taiwanese, right?
right, 吃饱没?
Yeah.
Yes, so I think food security might not be that important for some small country, but for such a big places like mainland China, food security and enough food, to affordable food, is so important for its national security. And as for some other stockpiling, I think it's basically for mainland Chinese own need to maintain internal security. Because my second point is because if mainland China really wants to give it a try, attacking Taiwan, then I think we have to look at how much steel it purchases or produced domestically without exporting to other countries. Because holding steel is so important to come up with advanced weapons. So the steel production would be one important factor to look at. And second is to look at whether or not it is going to not only recruit, but also mobilize troops along the coastline of the Chinese mainland. And it takes time. It won't happen within 2 or 3 days. It takes at least 2 to 4 weeks so that we can see, okay, there is a salient troop mobilization along the Chinese coastline, which might aim at Taiwan. Okay, so there are a lot of different factors telling us that this kind of stockpiling right now is not for preparation of war against Taiwan. And my last point I would like to make is that, with this like wheat or some other stockpiling we are talking about, or the Economist is talking about right now, I think it's something about the resilience of mainland China. Because if you only have a very decent number or decent amount of something like wheat or like meat, then that won't constitute your own national security and that won't constitute your own resilience. You need to have some overcapacity, over stockpiling. You got enough these kind of things to sustain your national security, to sustain your resilience. So overcapacity, over stockpiling actually are of great importance for mainland China's resilience.
So Professor Chien, do you agree with Professor Huang's opinion, saying that the stockpiling, there are still a lot of other factors indicating whether that is aimed at Taiwan or not? What's your take on this?
I actually agree with him because for a big country like China, we do really think differently. For the U.S. Also, they have been stockpiling oil, and then they also make sure that their domestic oil reserve is sufficient. And then we will not jump into the conclusion that U.S. is preparing for a war. And then as for whether China will attack Taiwan, and then whether this military suspicion might link to this stockpiling, I think if there is a conflict, that Taiwan will not be the real target of this war. Plus, historically, China has never attacked any other country before it. So right now, the stockpiling, I have to say, it has to maintain its domestic stability. Mm-hmm. So that's number one important in terms of the food security, oil security, economic stability, and also preparing for a future attack from the foreign powers. Mm-hmm. They have to maintain their domestic consumptions and then also sufficiency. They have to rely on the self-sufficiency in case China will face a foreign sanction.